Superversive Livestream. I am your host, Ben Wheeler, here with my co host, Anthony Marchetta. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm having a fantastic week. Like I always do. Never had a bad day in my life.
I bet he has too. Little golden child, little Catholics. So today we are talking about John Carpenter's The Thing. Probably one of the pinnacles of fleshy action horror. Yes,
It was cool.
it was. It is. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's one of my favorite horror films. Uh, I usually watch it once a year or so during Halloween, along with some of the Michael Myers films, the ones actually worth watching. And
There are
most
multiple worth watching. I thought there was only one worth watching,
there are three
which I've
worth
never
watching.
seen, by the way. But
So the first one's worth watching. The second one is worth watching because it's basically a continuation of the first. The third one is okay. There's also Michael Myers. Um, there's also one with like Ice Cube in it or something. That's like a bunch of. It was during the what's it called when you were just watching real people be idiots. Um, Reality TV phase where he basically murders a whole bunch of reality TV stars one by one. It's entertaining. It's just entertaining though. It's not really that much of anything else. And then there's also um, oh my goodness, the new Halloween movie with all the characters as old people. That's also really good. I enjoyed it.
was that really interesting? I wasn't sure how good it actually was. It's very hard to tell.
It was legitimately very good. I don't I don't know what else to tell you about it, other than yeah, it was worth watching. Um,
The thing about Halloween or movies of that type is that it seems like one of those movies that really, really shouldn't have a sequel. Uh, that it should exist as its own thing. But maybe it really did need that sequel. Maybe that was exactly what it needed. What the hell do I know?
hmm It's like so. The thing about horror films is that they're actually like super. They how do I want to put it? They tend to make back their money quite well. Uh,
Yeah, there's a following for them.
yep, they usually do it well above what people what um, they perform well above their budgets. The reason why the paranoia movie, not the paranormal activity and other movies tend to last a lot longer than they theoretically should, is because of how, excuse me, is because of how that's all set up. Essentially, um, essentially they make them for relatively cheap or even a decent amount of money, and then they basically get their money back. There's not much else to it. I wish there was more to it, but there isn't. They make their money back. Well, that's it. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because as my relationship with horror movies is I do not watch a ton of them. If you want to count Jurassic Park and Jaws as horror movies, which people kind of do, but I've never thought of them as horror movies.
Jaws is
I've
much more of a horror movie than Jurassic Park.
I mean, both of them are ranked that way sometimes. You're right, though. I would say Jaws is more of a horror movie, but even Jaws, I always thought of as like an action thriller more than a horror movie. But Jaws and Jurassic Park I've seen, and they sort of kind of count. Jaws more than Jurassic Park. Silence of the Lambs I saw, which again sort of counts, but I always thought of it as a psychological thriller more than a horror movie, even though again it is classified as a horror movie. And that was pretty much it. Uh, Last year I decided I wanted to try something more classic, so I found the Vincent Price movie Haunting at Hill House, which was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed it. And this year I said I want to watch, a real classic horror movie, so I watched Frankenstein, the original 1930s Frankenstein, you know, which again, quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Shocking hot take right there. The Frankenstein was a good movie. And
Shocking.
finally, yeah, this week you said, "Hey, let's talk about the thing next week." I said, "Oh, all right, I'd like to see that." So I watched John Carpenter's The Thing, and that's basically every horror movie that I've seen. So I'm not like a big fan of the genre or anything like that, and I'm honestly I shouldn't be since most of the genre is terrible. Oh wait, there's one more exception, and that is Scream, which is really like a black com. Uh, but I really liked it. So I guess there's that too. Scream is sort of a horror movie and sort of a but it was, to me at least, I found it as at least as funny as it was scary. So, you know. Now the thing, that was a horror movie.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That was some some of the coolest creature effects in this movie. Let me tell you.
All of them physical effects. I want to make that very, very clear. Like, to me, a lot of this stuff, if you can't do a physical, real effect, you honestly shouldn't be doing it.
Well, you know what the problem is? You could tell.
Yes.
Even though, like, how can you tell? Why can you tell? I don't know. I'm not a technical guy. Nowadays, in theory, it should be indistinguishable, but it's not. It's not indistinguishable. You could tell.
But the thing is, that's not a bad thing, especially for the level of craft they put into it. Like, I want to make it very, very clear. Uh, it looked disgusting.
Oh no, it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Easily the best part of that movie was the creature effects, in my opinion. I loved it. I see people once again. All of the reviews of the movie call it nihilistic. Nihilistic. Nihilistic is the word that cropped up over and over again. Once again, I think that critics overuse the word nihilistic.
How's it nihilistic?
I I would say it doesn't even touch on nihilism. Like that's just not even a thing in the movie. But I'll tell you why. Because it's kind of depressing and everybody dies. So that means it must mean that
Oh,
life has no meaning or whatever. Which,
right,
no, that's not what that means.
right.
That it's not necessarily making a philosophical statement. It's me, it was an alien attack.
Yeah. Some Norwegians apparently unlocked things that wasn't supposed to be unlocked, and guess what? Now scientists gotta die. That's how it is.
And you know what? You could argue that the ending is even. You could even argue that the ending is a little bit optimistic in a sense. He shares a drink with Childs,
Mm-hmm.
McCready and Child sharing a drink with each other. There's a little bit of kind of at the very end there. He realizes that they're both too weak to fight each other. So either one of them are the monster, the other can't do anything, and if one of them is a human, then they can't do it. Then they can't escape even if they wanted to.
Yep.
So he's decided he's gonna have this one. They're gonna have this moment of humanity where they share the drink with each other, which in a sense is also taking that risk. I've just blown up
Mm-hmm.
this entire base and whatever, and now I'm gonna agree to share this drink with you. just kind of accept, like, at the end of all of this, when there's nothing else I could do, I'm going to risk, you know, I'm going to take the risk that humanity has won out. That's one interpretation of the scene. The other interpretation of the scene, of course, is that they are both monsters, and both of them are taking the calculated risk that the other person is trying to think that way and are spreading the monster juice to each other. But
Yep.
neither one play that hand. That's the brilliance of the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Reportedly, I read a thing that struck me as really funny, and I could just imagine being there. That John Carpenter at the pre-release screening, an audience member asked him, goes, "So wait, which one of them is the thing?" And Carpenter replied, "Oh, it's up to your imagination." And the audience member rolled his eyes and said, "Really? I hate that." I can imagine that exact scene, and if you're John Carpenter, like that, your heart's got to drop at that. That's, I think, when you realize, oh shit, this movie's gonna bomb, and it did. It did not do well. Believe it or not, it did not bomb. It bombed for a. It made back its money, but it bombed for a horror movie. It bombed.
Yeah.
Like you said, horror movies tend to do very well, and it did not. It like made back its money, but they expected it to do much, much better. And John Carpenter, who was a golden boy after Halloween, uh,
Mm-hmm.
after the thing came out, it did so poorly, and the critics savaged it so badly. Because when it first came out, critics despised the movie. They just absolutely ripped it to shreds. So
As they
they
tend to do
savaged
on
it so
things.
badly. Yeah, it did. It did so badly, and the critics savaged it so badly that they dropped John Carpenter from, like, he got this cushy multi-movie deal. They bought him out and said, "We don't want to take any more risks. It's not worth it." And John Carpenter later said it was like the biggest disappointment of his career. It changed. It badly changed how he did everything in his career, because they dropped him and he never really found commercial success. John Carpenter has only had, like, out of what, a dozen movies, like two or three hits.
Yeah.
Something like three hits. And that's really weird to me, because John Carpenter is a guy who he he's thought of as an auteur, but he's an auteur in the best sort of way, where he definitely makes movies for the audience. Like,
Yeah.
he's not just making movies for himself. He's not just making movies to be weird, like, say, a Tim Burton or whatever. John Carpenter is clearly trying to make entertaining movies. He's just kind of unlucky. He keeps
Yeah.
he for whatever reason, he keeps missing out on the zeitgeist and making, like, great movies, supposedly, since I haven't really seen anything but this one, but making
Yeah.
great movie after great movie and not getting any attention for any of it. And that's really a shame. It's not right. Ben, at 7:18, Megabuster Shepherd says you are not audible.
All of us? I haven't said anything in a
Says
while.
wait. Says Ben isn't audible.
I haven't said anything, but
True. MBS. Can you tell us if you can hear
I'm singing.
Ben?
I'm also trying to win a battle. Oh my goodness! Please stop. It's capturing my voice. Audio Capture 2 it has my voice. Oh my goodness.
No, okay. So I'm just gonna keep going. I was really surprised to see that Ennio Morricone did the soundtrack of the thing. Uh,
Hold on a second,
win a
Anthony.
battle. Oh
Oh
no,
my
the
goodness.
other guy.
Please stop. It's
That
capturing my voice. Audio
is it
Capture 2
capturing my voice?
it has my voice. Oh my goodness. Um. Okay, so you're very faint. Oh my goodness. I would like one stream where I don't have problems with my audio. All right, I've really turned up your audio capture gain. Uh, okay, so you're very
Okay,
faint.
hold on.
Oh
How
my
is it
goodness.
going?
I would like one stream where I don't have problems with my audio.
Mega
All right,
Buster
I've really
Shepherd writes
turned up
F.
your audio capture gain.
So too long didn't listen. John Carpenter is very unlucky.
Okay, so you're very
Okay,
faint.
hold on.
Oh
How
my. All right,
Ben,
should be good.
how's it going? Okay, there we
Should
go.
be better. While I proceed to
It's all
lose
good.
horribly to the French. Ugh,
Ooh, that's
embarrassing.
there's some shame to that one.
I mean, to be fair, it's medieval France led by, like their best king, but still, you're right.
We're Americans, so that's what we do. Let's make fun of the French.
Yep.
I mean, I don't even know why I do, to be honest. Like, everybody does that, but I don't really have anything. I don't care about the French either way. I neither like nor dislike them. But as an American, I feel like it's a duty to make fun of the French. Alright, so MBS says he can hear me a bit better. Good. That's something. Thumbs up there. Anyway, the too long didn't listen was John Carpenter is very unlucky.
Yes.
And I was very surprised that to see that Ennio Morricone did the soundtrack. For people who don't know who Ennio Morricone is, you do know who Ennio Morricone is. You just don't realize that you know who he is. He did the soundtrack for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which is probably in the top 3 most famous soundtracks in movie history. That is the famous da-na-na-na-na, wah-wah-wah. That's Ennio Morricone. He is fantastic, an absolute genius. So to see that he did the soundtrack for the thing was kind of a nice icing on the cake thing. And you could definitely hear it a little bit in some of the electric guitar riffs or the, electronic music sections of the thing. You could hear some of the signature Morricone sound. But it was definitely much more understated than the soundtrack to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But I greatly enjoyed it. It was a fun soundtrack to listen to for sure.
Precinct 13. Precinct 13? Yes, I
Assault
think
on
I.
Precinct 13.
Yes, I know that one.
I want to see it. I never have, but it looked cool.
I have.
So
It's
I'll
pretty
have to
good.
give it a shot. I mean, it almost feels dumb to me to go like, oh yeah, Ennio Morricone, or not Ennio Morricone, John Carpenter's movies are pretty good, and go, yeah, going down a limb there, staking my reputation on some controversial claims. John Carpenter, pretty good director.
Make some pretty sweet horror. Oh wait, I've got a unit I haven't even sent out in the battle yet. Oh my goodness. Go,
How
go,
many
go, go.
horror movies has he done? He's done Halloween, which is a classic, and he's done The Thing, which is a classic. He's done. There was some other really trippy movie I vaguely remember him doing, but I can't remember the name of it. It was also a horror movie. He also did some Stephen King thing about a killer car.
Uh, yeah, no,
Christine or something.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was him.
Not sure on the name.
I think it was called Christine. Could be wrong. Could be right. The world may never know.
It's true. You're absolutely right.
uh, otherwise, though, back to The Thing. Had that score by Ennio Morricone, which was more understated compared to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but was very You could hear some of his signature sounds, some of the electric guitar riffs, and it was a very good, very evocative score. Uh, the creature effects of the thing were fantastic, and there were just some unbelievable set piece scenes, like the famous scene, the bloodletting scene.
Mm-hmm.
Just an outstanding scene.
Yep. And it's set up so that you have uh, all the tension that you'd expect from it. Like it's as if like there's a spy in their midst, and they have to discover it. And so it's like, yes, one of you will know that this is poisoned, and I don't think you have the guts to drink it, or like the other sort of tests. Um, I've thought about what's the other one. It reminds me a lot of holding the what's the word I want? Holding the brand to prove your truthfulness or innocence. Um, Ecstasy of Gold, The Fog. Yeah.
The fog, I don't know, but Ecstasy of Gold is from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and that's the famous scene, the famous like 3 or 4 minute long scene. That's literally just Tuco, who's the ugly in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, running through a cemetery, just looking at grave after grave, searching for the name on the grave that supposedly has the money buried underneath it. And all it is, that's the whole scene, is him running and checking out the graves while this song called Ecstasy of Gold plays uh, over the background. And it is a brilliant song. If I remember, I think that's which of course they also play over the Mexican standoff at the end. Man, I'm trying to avoid talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly because that's such a good movie too. But
I've
around
never
the thing,
seen the full thing. I need to though.
I mean, I can understand that because it definitely does drag at times. But oh, the good moments are so good, and it's like 50% soundtrack too.
Yeah. I've got some Among Us memes. I enjoy a good Among Us meme.
I have never played Among Us. I wonder if I'd like it.
I haven't played it either because I'm the type of person that I just sound suspect whenever I say anything. So it's like, yeah, you probably did it and I haven't done it, or maybe I did do it and it's like, guess what? Now I'm getting thrown out of an airlock. I don't like this.
Just accuse Ben every time, no matter what.
Right. And it's like,
Yeah,
okay, that's how it is.
I've never played it. Maybe I'll try it one day. It seems popular.
I know I've got a few good memes of this. Anyway.
But yeah, the thing was a lot of fun.
Yep.
the the one scene where you just see everybody, where the guy, like, his head pops off and then it grows spider legs and starts scurrying out.
Yeah, that is
That was a
horrifying.
fantastic scene. Especially, I really like McCready in the movie too, because McCready, who's Kurt Russell's character, of course, and McCready in the movie is very much not a dumb horror protagonist, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, what is his reaction when he sees that this monster is here? We're not going to shoot it. We're not going to hit it with an axe. We're not going to run. No, we're going to burn it with fire. We are going to set it on fire until we get all of it. All of it must die. And same thing at the end of it. He's like, all right, so none of us are going to survive this. So we're going to blow up this entire base. Everything must go. They must die. I really like that about the movie. I don't think that anybody was dumb in
Right.
the thing. And that's definitely something worth appreciating in a genre that's often made fun of for how dumb everybody is.
Yep. It's like they've even made jokes of it in like commercials and stuff like that. You know, you can't always make good decisions. Quick, guys, to the haunted graveyard. He won't search for us there. And then it's like,
Oh yeah, the commercial. They
right?
go, "Are you? Let's hide behind these chainsaws." And then he goes, "Why don't we just get into the in the running car?" And then he goes, "Are you?" Or they go, "Quick, let's go and hide here." And then they go, "What? Why don't we just all get in the running car?" And he looks at her and goes, "Are you crazy? Let's hide behind these chainsaws." And then she goes, "Smart." And they all run over to the chainsaws while some guy is staring at them.
So here's a
Yeah,
really big
pretty
brain
funny
meme,
commercial.
but I'm not going to explain it. Either you know or you don't. It'll show up in a second.
Still waiting on it.
I know. There we go. I can't explain it, and Anthony, you cannot explain it either. I'm going to tell you this right now.
This hasn't shown up yet.
Oh my goodness. It's shown up on my screen. Yeah, it is spicy. It's really spicy.
I don't know. Hold on. Oh, there are two imposters among us. Ha
Yes.
ha ha. That is spicy.
All right.
Nice.
So now that I've thoroughly done horrible, oh my goodness, horrible things to people's minds, brainwave patterns. One of the things I've always like curious about, like problem with like the thing, is that you can't talk about it. Like you can't like go into its backstory or anything like that. You can't um, you can't be like, oh, today we're going to uh, reveal the secret origin of the thing. And it's like, what do you mean secret origin? It's an alien. Well, yes, but
They didn't. Oh, you say that, Ben, but they did make a prequel in 2011, and
I
it
know
was
they did.
garbage.
I
Just
know.
terrible. I love that you say all of this, but it's like, well, they tried.
I know. I know
They
they tried.
tried.
It's
It
bad.
didn't work, but they tried. Thank God it didn't work. It's a terrible idea. Just terrible. Why would you do that? Well, no, I know exactly why they did. They did it for money. Yeah, this did make me
Money.
wonder if I should watch the Howard Hawks original.
See, I
Yeah,
so few
NBS
people
says I
talk about
hated
it.
the prequel. Everybody hated the prequel. It's That's because the prequel was awful. Anyway, keep going.
The thing with the I'm just curling up into a ball and hope I kill as many knights as possible. Uh, no, go back. My formation up. The thing about like explaining horror is that eventually people are going to be like, no. Um, People are just not going to like it, and they're going to go like, what is this gross thing? Like, how is it? Like, why is it here? And then it's going to be, guess what? Now you've ruined it. You've ruined your potential for um, I'm abusing the game mechanics by huddling in a corner so their knights can't get me, but they're going to anyway.
That's funny.
It's like, oh
Yeah,
no.
the problem with the thing too is that the thing is basically like a B movie,
Yeah.
but it's just a really well made B movie. But let's
Yep.
be honest here, and I think that John Carpenter would agree with this. By the way, it's not very deep.
No.
nor is it supposed to be. Uh, I think that there are people who certainly want it to be very deep. There are people, because it makes them feel smarter, but it's not very deep.
Mm-hmm.
So, to be honest, there isn't all that much to talk about. When people talk about, like, what's the movie about? It's about paranoia or whatever. Well, okay, what's its commentary on paranoia? What is it saying about paranoia? Um, it's bad, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. Don't be. Paranoia is quite bad.
Yeah, but it's
You
not
should
even
just
that. It's justified paranoia. These people are
accept,
being.
yeah, except even that. Exactly. So, what does that even have to do? Like, none of this, by the way, this is not a criticism of the movie. It's just a limitation in analysis. There isn't much to analyze in the thing. Why is it good? Well, it's good because it's very well directed. It is,
Mm-hmm.
the cinematography is fantastic. The acting is great. The creature effects are outstanding, and that's it. And all of that adds up to make it really scary. But there isn't all that much to analyze in regards to the writing. There isn't much to the characters. They're very basic. I've seen people really, really push and try for the sexual angle on it, where there are no women on the base or whatever. And
Yeah.
I think that that's really, really pushing it. Uh, I don't see it. There's just that's kind of like the problem when talking about the thing is, I suppose if you were somebody who was really into cinematography and really into, the craft of filmmaking, you'd probably have a ton to talk about, but I am not, and neither is Ben. We are writers. And when
Yep.
it comes to the writing of the thing is very workmanlike. You know, it is very
Pulpy.
polished, but it's also very simple.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, I don't really know what else to say about it. Like, why is the thing scary? Well, because being trapped with a shape-shifting monster with a slowly dwindling group of people, any one of which could be the monster, is a great setup for suspense for what should be pretty obvious reasons. I don't have much
Mm-hmm.
to add about to that.
Yeah. And honestly, neither should you. The whole idea that some things can be added to or taken away. It's, oh my goodness, I gotta retake my home capital. I could probably do it. Problem
You
is,
can do it, man.
I have so few armies. I'm actually just gonna wait for my third army to get brought up again. But no, I'm chickening out. I'm sorry. Let's see. So while I'm waiting for this stuff, so the thing with John Carpenter's The Thing, is that it's not complex. It's not some big complex idea or anything like that. It is exactly what it needs to be, and it is what it needs to be in all the best ways. These weird people like who are putting out, like, oh, it's a complex something. I don't know. Like, it's, let's look at paranoia. Like, again, like I tell people, paranoia is only paranoia until you know they're out to get you. You know what I mean? Like these things aren't paranoia if you're really if they're really out to get you. Like, that's a.
So, here's the interesting question to me then about the thing. It's not the movie itself. I know why the movie is good. It's not hard to see why the movie is good. The question is, why did the critics savage it?
Mm. See, that is a good question.
Yeah, MBS says John Carpenter is not that deep, really. He's right.
Yeah.
John Carpenter is not that deep. That's why I like him, though, and I think he knows that. I don't think he's pretentious. He reminds me of, I can't remember the name of the guy, but the creator of the video game Psychonauts.
I know exactly
You
who you're
remember
talking
his
about.
name?
No, I don't.
But yeah, he came out with a lot of like cult hits, like Grim Fandango, which I've also played part of, and he
Mm-hmm.
came out with like cult hit after cult hit, and they asked him like, I think they were worried like with this new game or whatever that he would sell out or whatever. And when they asked him about it, he says, "I have been trying to sell out since Psychonauts. If anybody could tell me how to sell out, please let me know. I'll do it." And I
Like,
feel
here
like
is the price.
Yeah,
Please.
I feel
Please.
like John Carpenter is kind of the same way. If you were to ask him, like, "Oh, are you gonna sell out on your vision?" He's like, "What do you think I'm trying to make? I'm just trying to make a fun movie."
Right.
Like
I
the same. I think he would say the same thing. Like, there isn't really selling out here because I don't think he's trying to do anything very special.
mm-hmm.
Nor should he have to.
Yeah.
Tim Schafer, thank you. MBS says Tim Schafer. Yep. Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of Tim Schafer in that way, where like, reading interviews by him or whatever, he seems very unpretentious. He knows exactly what he's making.
Oh,
He
Tim
knows
Tim
what the
Schafer?
thing is.
Oh,
Tim
dude.
Schafer and John Carpenter.
Right. Well, Tim Schafer is fairly cucky. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
I've never really been in. I bring up Tim Schafer just because of that quote by him, but I've never
Ah,
really been into Tim Schafer. Uh,
I got you.
I wasn't. I wasn't even that into Psychonauts, honestly, I am very much in the minority on the people I know. People like adore Psychonauts.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was okay. I thought the gameplay wasn't that great, and it wasn't as funny as everybody said it was.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm about as basic bitch as you could get there, since like my favorite series, the Portal games, which I do think are brilliant. So, and I know that there's a little bit of a pushback on the right wing, where like people where people get annoyed by Gladys, and I think Gladys is hysterical,
Oh,
straight
Gladys
up.
was amazing. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
don't know a
think
single
Gladys.
person who hates GLaDOS.
I know people. I remember bridge when they have a the bridge constructor game. They made a bridge constructor portal where they had Gladys narrate, and you could do bridge constructor with portals, which I bought and is super cool, by the way. And Gladys narrates it, and it's very funny. But I remember there were people who said, "Oh, I really like this, but they got Gladys in it, and she's in the thing."
They
And I'm
use
like, see, I just don't see that because I straight up just find Gladys hysterical.
right. I am with you on that one.
And I'm also one of the few people, like, I defend Portal 2 because I've seen people who have criticized like the writing of Portal 2, and I think that Portal 2 is in its own way just as funny as Portal 1. There are different games with different senses of humor. Portal 2 is more over the top about it. And I could see in that case too that, if Portal 2's humor misses for you, then the game would have to be very annoying. Like, I could certainly understand like if somebody would find Wheatley or something annoying, but I thought Wheatley was hilarious. I thought Cave Johnson was hilarious,
Oh, Cave
and
Johnson was amazing. Amazing.
he was, and I thought Gladys was hilarious again. So, again, just that whole game, I'm like, see, I just don't see it. The criticisms of it or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember Matthew Matosis. I don't know if you know him. Uh, he's a good critic. He's a very good critic,
Mm-hmm.
and I highly recommend him. He was the guy who kind of single-handedly changed the way that people were talking about BioShock Infinite when it came out. He like put a critical eye, turned a critical eye towards BioShock Infinite and kind of changed the whole discussion there. He's very
Mm-hmm.
good, and I recommend him. But he had a review of Portal 2 where like he was very disappointed. I think, or he was at least mildly maybe not very, but he was mildly disappointed with Portal 2, uh, because he thought it was, I think, too similar to, too similar to the original Portal, that it was too play tested, that they didn't take enough risks. Uh, he didn't like the new song at the end, I believe, which was a lot of people. I think that the new song is funny. It's not as funny as Still Alive, but I found it funny. Uh, and I actually disagree with him about a lot of that. In that, I get why you would want something that's a little bit more original, but on the other hand, I think that they clearly had a story to tell there, and they told it very well,
Yes.
and it was very well done.
The horror was actually super subtle in all the right ways for that thing. Because if you think about it, all of a sudden you and all your coworkers are just dead. And
Oh, the
that's it.
Portal games, that's what makes them brilliant. There is definitely a horror edge in Portal. It's not even
Mm-hmm.
really an edge. It would be a straight up horror game if they didn't just decide to make it a comedy. Somebody decided they would rather make a comedy, otherwise, it would be a horror game. The thing is, though, it wouldn't be as good as a horror game because they've already made that game. It's called System Shock 2, and it's very famous.
Mm-hmm.
Which is about a rogue AI that kills an entire research base, and you're the only survivor. And I've tried playing it. It's really creepy, and it's a very effective horror game. If Portal did not play it for comedy, it would just be a clone of System Shock 2 and probably not as good. The
Yeah.
thing is, though, the original Portal and Portal 2 are two very different games, believe it or not, even though people don't realize that they are
Oh,
sometimes, but they definitely are.
no argument from me.
And they're effective for very different reasons. They're both effective, in my opinion, but for very different reasons. The original Portal is very much dry humor, but the original Portal is also very much dependent upon the fact that's playing off it. Honestly, the original Portal, and we're on a tangent here, but you know what? This is interesting, so I'm going to keep at it. Anyway, the original Portal is brilliant for, I think, reasons that a lot of people don't even fully comprehend. Because the original Portal very much, the reason that it works as well as it does, the way it does, is because it's a video game. It could only be a video game and work
Mm-hmm.
as well as it does. If it were any other medium, Portal, which is why the attempts to make Portal into a movie is just a terrible idea. The plot of Portal is so dead simple.
Yeah.
Like it would be such a bad movie. But as a
So
video game, it's ingenious.
what's the difference
So
between
the
us? Hold
idea,
on. What is the difference between a simple movie like The Thing and a simple video game like Portal?
the thing about Portal, the reason that the story in Portal works so well is because it plays off of the fact that it is a video game. So what I mean by that is this. Gladys at the beginning of the game, when you start off, it's possible that Gladys is just a recording. And they intentionally play it that way. They want it to be kind of iffy if Gladys is only a recording or not, and she's just kind of, she's a plot device that you see in a lot of games, the omniscient narrator with a sense of humor, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then as the story goes on, only if you investigate, you don't need to find any of this, but if you investigate, you start to see signs that there's something up with Gladys, that, everything isn't as it seems. Meanwhile, the game, Gladys just kind of keeps going with the game. And once you pay attention to the things behind the scenes, the Ratman dens,
Yep.
which is this guy is living behind the test chambers, which also tells you, by the way, that, hey, this is more than just a puzzle game, isn't it? There is a behind the scenes. Like, this isn't just an excuse to go through the test chambers, which it very easily could have been, and it could have been a pretty good game that way, by the way. If it were just an excuse to go from puzzle to puzzle, the basic conceit of the portal gun is good enough that absolutely could have carried it to being like kind of a cult hit, you know, and being a pretty good game in its own right. But no, there's more. There's another story. Then
Mm-hmm.
Gladys decides she's going to send you through a live fire turret test chamber. And all of a sudden, you start to realize, like, something is seriously wrong here. You get the companion cube, and eventually you break your way behind the scenes. So, in essence, you are now in a puzzle game, but on a collision course for a boss battle, which completely breaks the rules of puzzle games. It completely breaks the rules of how Portal has set itself up from the beginning. Portal sets itself up as a series of puzzle test chambers that you need to get through and then you win. But now you've broken free of the chess chambers, are behind the scenes, and are taking on the omniscient boss behind the whole thing.
Yep.
And this is something that can only work this well because because you're so used to video game tropes and how Portal is messing with them, and that Portal breaks these tropes. Portal 2, realizing that it can't pull the same trick twice, very intelligently doesn't try to, and instead tells a more straightforward narrative. And it dials up the comedy. And I think this was the right thing to do. But yeah, that's another story. Now, contrast this with The Thing. The Thing could probably be made into a pretty good horror video game. We know this because there is a similar video game, Alien Isolation. Alien
Mm-hmm.
is a very similar movie to The Thing, right?
Yeah.
It's an extremely similar movie. Uh, in fact, the basic premises are basically identical. It's just different monsters. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is fine. There's nothing wrong. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a classic idea for a reason. And it was made into what was supposedly. I haven't played it because my computer's not good enough for it. Uh, I a pretty good video game. The Thing probably could be made into a pretty good video game if done the right way.
Yes.
Th-
I mean, it's
So
basically Among Us, werewolves, um, a whole bunch of different other similar ones.
yeah, so I would say the difference between The Thing as a movie and Portal as a game. So let's say, if I were to make the Portal the game, the movie,
The game, the movie, the
the prob
script, the
yeah,
long
right?
form
The
suicide of the
friggin'
author.
the friggin' J.J. Abrams movie, it was seriously gonna be a J.J. Abrams movie for a
Ugh,
while, and it made me want to kill myself.
right.
The very idea made me want to kill myself. Uh,
So like people were like saying, "Hey man, how frustrating is it to tell people to wear masks all day every day? I'm gonna pop a blood vessel like Emperor Valentinian, who screamed at barbarians so loud and so hard that he burst a blood vessel in his head. Like that is explicitly how a Roman Empire died, just screaming.
that's amazing, actually. That's kind of fantastic.
I want
But
my
whatever. Going
capital
back to
back.
like, yeah, right. Going back to Portal as a movie though, compared to the Thing as a movie, if Portal were adapted into a movie, the reason that I don't think that it could work is because so much of the misdirection of Portal and how it works is based off of the tropes of video games. That Portal is explicitly a puzzle based video game divided into test chambers. That is something that could exist on its own as a game with no explanation, and you, the player, would buy it without thinking, and it could make a perfectly fine, satisfying game. And if that's all Portal was, it still could have been pretty good, just for the simple reason that the Portal mechanic is a good mechanic and makes for good puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it turned into a narrative, it was playing off of those very specific tropes that you did not expect it to go that way. And the fact that it went in those different directions, it was able to surprise the player by making you believe that you were playing a simple puzzle game and playing off of your expectations there. The Sly Cooper series, by the way, does the exact same thing in a in an interestingly similar way. They have a moment in yeah, and by the way, MBS says, "I feel your pain, man. I work in retail." So do I, MBS, and yes, I do. I understand.
Not
Uh,
forever. Not forever. Ah. All right, I'm all right. I'm all right. I'm all right.
Anyway, yeah, sorry to continue. So, anyway, so in the Sly Cooper series, they do a similar thing. The first game is a series of 5 bosses, one after the other, that you need to fight with very simple hub worlds and a very basic story. And Sly 2 appears to set things up the same way, where you have a series of bosses that you need to get through, one after the other, go through hub worlds and whatever. And you actually take down a boss in a similar, and it looks like it's a very similar game to the original Sly game in Sly 2, where you take down the first boss and you're on the second boss, and then something happens with the second boss where all of a sudden you're betrayed, and 2 of the 3 members of the team are captured and put in jail, and you need to break them out. And it's this massive plot twist. And it's a very basic plot twist, but it works incredibly well because it's playing off of what happened to you in the original Sly Cooper. The structure of the game, you're expecting it to go the same way that the previous game went. You're expecting it to play a lot like a typical, a video game, but they're using those expectations against you. It would never work as a movie because all you have there is the story. You don't have the expectations of the game playing for you. Portal, I don't even know how you would make Portal work as a movie, to be honest. I guess you could do it as like a sort of isolation horror thing, like we were talking about. But at the same time, when it's only one person, I really don't, you know, I don't know how good of a movie that would make, and it's so hard to see the humor translating well,
Mm-hmm.
without it. I just don't see it working. It's so wed to the fact that there's a game. Interestingly, Portal 2 not so much, but bleh, sorry.
Ew, gross. There's a traitor among
Yeah,
us. Somebody coughed.
somebody has the tooth.
I'm also low key buying all my defensive settlements because because things aren't going well.
By the way, Portal is loosely connected to Half-Life. Yes.
Yeah.
Black Mesa and Aperture Science canonically exist in the same universe, but that's about it. That's all they have in common. Aperture, to be honest, Aperture Science itself, the whole concept behind it is hilarious. They were a shower curtain company that accidentally made portal guns. Just the whole, everything about it is funny. MBS says video game stories in general make for terrible films. Strangely enough, they make good cartoons. Yeah, from my understanding, they made a Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon that was supposed to be pretty good. And there was something else too. Can't remember. They were supposed to make a Sly Cooper movie, and I was actually hoping that they would, even though I had no interest in it because the trailer was awful. But I was hoping that the making of the movie would spur them to make another game, since they ended the 4th game on a cliffhanger, and it still bothers me. Since the 4th game, alright, so the original Sly Cooper series is absolutely fantastic, and it has a perfect ending, and it should have ended there. But they couldn't leave well enough alone, and they decided to make a 4th game, and the story and the game itself was pretty fun, but the story was absolutely horrendous, and they ended it on an awful cliffhanger. And then they just never made another game. 8 years later, we're still waiting for Sly 5. And I was kind of hoping that the movie would, spark some interest in making a 5th game, but no. I don't even care. I just want the story resolved. Since the story was resolved in the original trilogy, and then they had to friggin' dig it up. MBS says Sly 4 was weird. Yes, it was. It was very weird. Sly 4 was such a weird game. It was fun to play. It had like the same basic gameplay as Sly 1 through 3. The new additions that they added were even pretty good. Like I really like playing as Sly's ancestors and whatever. But the story was so bad. And this was a really big problem with Sly Cooper because the Sly Cooper series takes like half of its identity from its story. The story is a really important part of the series.
Mm-hmm.
The game itself ended up not doing very well, and fans hate it as well they should because it's terrible. Honestly, I'm not going to go on about the Sly Cooper series because that's even more off topic since there's nothing remotely horror related about it. But but if I wanted to, I could go on all day. Like the fact that I think that the character of Carmelita combines the Inspector Zenigata role in Lupin the Third with the love interest, and it's an actually brilliant concept for a character. That Sly Cooper I don't know if they pioneered it, but they were one of the only ones I've seen do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of combining the Inspector Zenigata character with the love interest character, it's a brilliant concept. Insert your own Lupin the Third homoeroticism joke here. But
Like it needs the joke.
yeah, right. But I thought they already had. Shut up. No, no, they
It's
didn't.
true. I'm just messing around.
Yeah.
So, oh my goodness.
Back to horror. The
Yeah.
next horror movie that I want to see is Bride of Frankenstein. Have you seen the original Frankenstein before?
I have not.
I mean, once again, I'm really going out on a limb here and putting my critical reputation at stake by saying
Eh,
it's pretty good. I recommend it.
thank you. I appreciate it.
MBS says, "Rest in peace, Carmelita's relationship." Yes, yeah. So Sly Four. Uh, Here's the thing. I mentioned that Carmelita, the character, like the innovation that Sly Cooper made was adding a sexual romantic dynamic. I guess romantic is more accurate since it is a kids game, and it is definitely a kids game. It's not an adults game, but they added a romantic angle to the Inspector Zenigata relationship in Lupin the Third, and then in Sly 3 ends with Sly and Carmelita actually end up together, which that was like the big finale to the series, though, right? That was it. That was the end. Sly gives up his life of crime, joins the cops, ends up with Carmelita. The end. And then in Sly 4, because of course you need to have that fourth game, and you can't have Sly just not be a thief. I mean, that would be terrible, right? Nobody wants to see Sly not being a thief. So he just is a thief again, and then Carmelita catches him, and then they break up. And then Sly and Carmelita, who had this very like Han Solo, Princess Leia esque relationship, where Carmelita had all of the political and even in some ways physical power, but Sly was the real master of the relationship who always came out on the top of every interaction. Sly gets this weird wounded puppy thing going with Carmelita, where he's always very apologetic around her, and it's just really uncomfortable to watch and not at all fun. And just it wasn't good. It was bad. MBS says I've watched every Frankenstein movie besides Bride. That is very strange to me because Bride is supposed to be the best one. Supposedly, I wouldn't know yet, but I'm gonna watch that next. The Frankenstein movies, the first two, are not very long. They're only like an hour and a half. So it won't take me that long to watch. What other horror movies have you seen, Ben?
So I've seen quite a few. The one that was I have no siege weapons that can hit that thing. So one of the last movies I saw was before the theaters closed was Color Out of Space, and then there's a Kristen Stewart movie that I saw with a girl I was dating at the time, but no longer. Underwater. That was also incredibly good. Uh, both of those, I tend to go out to watch horror films. Both of those were well worth it for me. And they seem content to bombard my troops from range. That's not good. That's really not good. So, underwater is the simplest one to describe. Some researchers drilling in what I assume is the Mariner's Trench or something similar. Basically, get attacked by Cthulhu and the Deep Ones. And it's just a whole lot of situational action horror that's just really good. Color Out of Space, fantastic. Lovecraft, you can't go wrong with it. There is. I'm looking for. There's also a movie I've been looking forward to seeing. That's about a Wendigo, I think, or something similar. I'm gonna look up the name of it, but it's about this kid who's feeding some sort of monster. I'm just looking at something. What is that? Sorry, there's a comic strip I just saw. It's a Hellboy spinoff. Sorry, don't worry about it. I need to find that movie because it actually looks good. Like, that's the thing. Where is it? It's not Pet Cemetery. I don't know. It's some sort of antlered monster. It's Antlers. That's what it's called. Antler. Antlers.
Antlers movie is the first thing that comes up if I Google.
So,
right.
It's been postponed for a year.
Yeah, it's coming out next year.
And it was originally going to come out in April, and I can't tell you how much I was looking forward to it. Guillermo del Toro, who's my favorite horror modern. I guess
he's
so.
Not the director. Is he the producer?
Producer.
Yeah, he's the producer.
Which don't get.
So is this like one of those things where sort of like The Nightmare Before Christmas isn't directed by Tim Burton, but it might as well be?
I mean, anyone who says it isn't directed by Tim Burton, like, I don't get it. It's like, yes, it was made of him. So movies that I love by Tim Burton: Pacific Rim, that's the big one. Then there's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, which was also absolutely amazing. It was about these little gremlin things that would steal children's teeth. He sold out in The Shape of Water, which was so bad I walked out of. It. And it was funny too because there's this guy next to me that was kind of fat and smelly. He moved over closer to my friends, and they're like, because basically the villain was a white male Christian who was absolutely insane. Various characters are promoted just because they're gay or disabled. It opens with a masturbation scene. Pardon my French. Like, it's just I just couldn't stay. I just left. It's an evil film.
What movie again?
Shape of Water.
Oh, Shape of Water. Yeah. Well, yes, it is.
Yes. Let's see here.
Yeah, I knew that from the premise.
He was in Death Stranding. He was in. He's actually pretty good in Death Stranding. He's collaborating with Hideo Kojima, and I approve. There's another one. Have you seen Don't Be Afraid of the Dark?
Uh, what, the show?
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, the movie.
from years ago I did, but yes.
I love that movie. It's fantastic.
Movie I didn't watch.
Oh, you should see the movie. The movie is terrifying. Um, sorry, I'm looking. There's something else. Antlers. Hellboy. Hellboy is probably the most famous thing with the widest appeal. Oh my goodness! Please, I need to destroy those siege weapons. But okay, good. I've distracted them. So the thing with Guillermo del Toro is that after he did kind of sell out with um, his Shape of Water, in the sense of I view it as it being obvious to take the ticket. They basically said make a movie that won't make sense. I guess I don't know how to put it. It's like one of those things. I lost the time. Where it's like I can tell what they were doing with it, um, and it isn't good. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Shape of Water is definitely a take the ticket movie. Didn't it win a ton of awards and
Oh
everybody
yeah.
hated it? One
Oh
of those
yeah.
movies, everybody hated it and it won a ton of awards. Yeah, one of those films.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was absolutely a take the ticket movie. That was his, hey, you want an award, make this. Yeah.
Yep.
You want praise, you want a budget, you want awards, make this movie. That's 100% what it was.
Mm-hmm.
That Shape of Water was take the ticket movie.
Yep. And by the Take the Ticket movie, we've talked about it many times before. Fox Day actually had a really good article about it that deserves being read. Hold on a second. Basically,
I
it's like,
heard.
hmm?
I'm looking at Vox Day Shape of Water.
So it's like this. He didn't say anything
The
about the
first
Shape
thing
of
that
Water.
comes up is Vox.com.
So no, I don't think he ever said anything about the Shape of Water. So this is what he says. A number of people have commented about something I said in a recent dark stream concerning what I perceive as the intrinsic advantage of understanding and accepting that you have no chance at being allowed the opportunities that are
Oh
routinely
yeah,
offered.
the Journey stands ticket.
Yep, that are offered to those who are less talented, Chuck Wendig, and less intelligent, John Scalzi, and more morally flexible than you. Whether you find this comforting or depressing is entirely up to you. You have no chance. If you are a good person, if you are a moral person, if you are a Christian, you are not going to be allowed to succeed in the system past a certain level. It's just not going to happen. It's very freeing to know this. You're not going to get the scholarship, etc., etc., etc. You have the imperative to go out and make things happen on your own. Here's the magical thing about it: they can't create. They cannot create things that are good, beautiful, and true. They're predators and parasites. So there's always going to be a certain amount of room granted to people to just do their own thing, or for people who just work outside the system, because that's where positive, necessary, positive change is going to happen. What we're dealing with is a society run by the wicked, run by hedonists, and so you can save a lot of time. The beauty of this is knowing that you have no chance to succeed within the system. You can give yourself the opportunity to succeed without it. And the fact is, you are never going to be given that handout, given that fake, easy pseudo success, means that the success you achieve will be real. You'll never have the imposter syndrome that they're always talking about. And so you have no chance to succeed in the realm of the wicked, but that knowledge frees you to pursue genuine, meaningful, and lasting success by pursuing the good, the beautiful, and the true. It's a great article, even though it's so short, even though it doesn't really say much. It's a very specific point that needs to be understood. I do not think Pinkerton's Ghosts, which you should check that out. Just saying it. Please. Ken Dickinson's episode is up next, and he's gonna have mermaids. Um, so I'm just trying to think. So like with Pinkerton's Ghosts, I just want to get our names out there. I just want to start establishing the habits that'll make things work for us in the future. Work for me, work for Ken, work for Anthony. The more successes we have under our belt, even if they eventually become almost meaningless, whether through age or anything else like that, if we've got tons and tons of work out there with our name on it, that means that we've got a certain amount of success, that we are there, that they cannot wipe us away. Even though they ignored the Superversives and stuff like that, that doesn't mean that we can't just keep trying and succeeding at things, creating things and putting things out there. If, like, I figure that John Carpenter was a pet. You know what I mean? He was he's a homosexual man, if I recall correctly. Actually, I should double check
Is he?
that.
I did not know that.
Yes.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I'm genuinely not sure of this.
I understood he was because of one of his movies, as well as a few different things.
Well, because like I said, I actually have some respect for John Carpenter for the simple reason that I don't think that he's and if this makes sense, a masturbatory type of director. I think he tries to make movies that people will like,
Mm-hmm.
and he just happens, and every now and then, he gets those mega hits like Halloween, but most of the time he just doesn't.
So he hasn't really produced much of anything for a while, but the big thing was Halloween. What's the Escape from L.A.? Is it Vampires?
Yeah. Well, Halloween was by far his biggest hit, and it's one of the biggest horror movie hits ever. And basically, I don't know if he actually created the slasher genre, but he might as well have.
Basically. No, like the Halloween is more or less the I'm trying to think of it. Is the OG horror
No,
film of that
he
style.
married a woman. There's
He
some
did?
gay gossip because of vampires, but
Oh, okay. Alien
he
and the
did
Thing.
marry.
Mm-hmm.
That's it though. There's no there's no actual rumors. Just people who watch vampires and said that seems pretty gay, dog.
Okay, I was mistaking it then. Uh, my
Which it is.
bad.
Oh yeah.
You know.
How dare you, sir?
I'm
You-
sorry.
On
My
the
lack.
other hand, he wrote an episode called Pro Life of an anthology television series, Masters of Horror. Take your guesses on if it's pro or anti-abortion.
Is that the one where some rednecks abort a doctor?
Uh, it's the product of a demonic rape by her father, who is against the abortion, and three brothers set out to ensure the baby lives after the father is given messages from God telling him to save the baby. Don't you get it? Don't you get the genius there, Ben? What they're saying
I
is
don't. I'm too stupid.
pro-lifers are so dumb and they're so terrible that even if it was Satan's baby, they would rather the women have the baby and they will force them to do it because pro-lifers just suck. They're just terrible. They're horrible people, and you know that's how dumb they are. That they're so obsessed with the unborn babies that even they would save a demon just because it's an unborn baby, and they'll persecute poor women to do it.
Right.
Don't you just feel guilty watching it, Ben? Doesn't that really make you think? Really makes you think, doesn't
It makes me think. I just remember the scene where he performed an abortion on the abortion doctor, and it's like, huh, look at that. Honestly,
No.
I didn't even know Ron Perlman was in there.
Yeah, it's just it's just an awful, terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need to watch it to tell you it's terrible. The plot is absolutely atrocious.
Listen, if there's a movie with Ice Cube in it, it's probably a bad movie. I'm gonna tell you this right now. It might be entertaining. It might be hecka entertaining because I like a good Ice Cube movie. But I'm gonna tell you guys. I'm gonna tell you guys right now. It's probably not gonna be that great.
I mean, Escape from New York is another movie that J.D. Cohen has pointed out in the past is very much a take the ticket sort of movie. Not that I don't think it itself was, for the simple reason that it wasn't a very big hit, but
Yeah.
uh, Escape from New York was a movie that was very much in the vein of 70s nihilism.
Hmm.
And he says for that reason, he doesn't, even though it's a very good movie, he does not consider it pulp.
Yeah. So let's see here. Just so you know, the movie I was thinking about was Halloween Resurrection, where it's an internet reality TV show. Where the internet reality TV show is called Dangertainment. Uh, and basically, teenagers are going to get murdered. Teenagers are dying tonight. Do 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 do.
So yeah, John Carpenter. It looks as if he's definitely in the modern Hollywood mold. You know, he's you know, I guess smarter than most of them. But you're right. I think that calling him like a pet of the Hollywood people, which is why he's still allowed to make movies,
Mm-hmm.
makes some sense. You know, he makes an adaptation of Stephen King, who was very much a he. I'm just gonna say it, like one of the bad guys. You know,
Yes.
and if you don't think that it's divided into good guys and bad guys, just ask them. They think we're the bad guys. They are very much our enemies. So if they, I'm not the one who decided it. He decided it, as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned.
Most.
So Stephen King is very much one of the bad ones. And he made an adaptation of a Stephen King movie, so that should tell you something immediately right there. And you know, he has Escape from New York, which is very much in that nihilistic '70s mold that the '80s action movies pushed out by being way too fun.
Yeah.
But Escape from New York is in that mold. You have the thing which I said earlier, and I still will argue is not a nihilistic film. It's not a film that has anything at all to say about nihilism. It does not have anything to do. That's the thing, though. Is people the only way that you can interpret it as nihilistic is, I think, if you're reading things into it that just aren't there. There is not a lot to it. Uh, yeah, MBS says Stephen King's literally satanic.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe it was Brian Niemeyer who pointed out that it, Stephen King does not understand why The Stand was by far like his most successful miniseries and one of his most successful books. And yes, Stephen King. So for those who don't know, The Stand, literally about like a religious woman versus the devil, and the religious woman is actually the good guy for once, which is very rare for King. So naturally, King, who probably wrote it just because he was tired of writing the same characters all the time and wanted to switch it up a little, uh, did not understand. Like, I'm not even kidding about that, and did not understand why everybody thought it was way better than his other crap. So, yeah, go figure. But yeah, Carpenter, who has that just horrendously bad, and once again, I say this without having seen it, but knowing that the story is really that bad, pro-life thing, and who has, Escape from New York, and who has all sorts, and who even claims that Halloween, he claims it's supposed to be some sort of sex-positive movie. Uh, and you know what? I kind of believe it. I believe him. He claims that people who read it as like, oh, the one survivor is the only morally pure one, and John Carpenter, I remember reading this a while back, strongly denied this interpretation, said it's basically the opposite of true.
Hmm.
I'm
Huh.
trying to find where Carpenter, yeah. Carpenter dismisses the notion that Halloween is a morality play, regarding it as merely a horror film. According to Carpenter, critics completely miss the point there. The one girl who is the most sexually uptight just keeps stabbing this guy with a long knife. She's the most sexually frustrated. She's the one that's killed him, not because she's a virgin, but because all that sexually repressed energy starts coming out. She uses all those phallic symbols on the guy. So basically, everybody read the obvious read of Halloween was that she was the only one, she was the one moral person, and final girl logic dictates that that means that she's going to be the survivor, right?
Right.
But John Carpenter wrote it with a completely different interpretation in mind, but I think perhaps, luckily to him, uh, everybody interpreted it the obvious way, since that's clearly better and makes more sense. Yeah, and gives it a more, and gives it a moral center. I just find that funny. But you're correct. So see also John wildly denouncing conspiracy theories about They Live. Yeah. So what it looks to me like with Halloween is that there was an obvious way to read it. That is how everybody read it, and John Carpenter did not intend it to be read that way. But it didn't matter, luckily, because the way that everybody read it is obviously better than the way that he intended it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, he did not invent the slasher movie, and I'm dumb to say that. That was Psycho.
You sure?
Psycho was 1960. Halloween was 1978.
You see, I don't know. I thought Psycho was much more limited.
It is more limited, but I don't think anybody would argue that it's not a slasher movie. I mean, come on, there's literally a slashing in it.
I dig it.
However, all modern slasher films basically came out of Halloween.
So, like, yeah, that's kind of my thing. Like, I dig it. I understand what you're saying, but I also think that because of how it's set up, uh, Halloween is the true granddaddy.
I would call it the father, but not the grandfather. I would call Psycho the grandfather. I would because first off, as far as Alfred Hitchcock goes, I have seen two Alfred Hitchcock movies. I saw Vertigo. I didn't like it. Sue me. And I saw Rear Window. I loved it, but I was kind of disappointed in the ending. So I have not actually seen Psycho. However, I know the plot of Psycho for no real reason except that I feel like everybody knows the plot of Psycho, right? It's
Yes.
just one of those things. You've heard it at some point or another, somehow, some way.
Mm-hmm.
So, knowing the plot of Psycho, I would say that it's probably the grandfather of all slasher movies. And even then, it needs to be remembered a little bit like, the West, like John Ford's Stagecoach is kind of considered the Western, and it came out in the 30s. But as people will point out who know something about the genre, Stagecoach, when it was directed, was made at a time when the Western was already so popular, it was considered a subversion of typical Westerns. Stagecoach, which is nowadays like looked at as kind of, the prototypical Western, and it was directed
Mm-hmm.
and written as a subversion when it came out because westerns were already that popular. Psycho is in a similar way. Like horror movies were a thing when Psycho came out. There just weren't, horror movies directed by good directors, which was, if you watch the Alfred Hitchcock movie starring Anthony Hopkins, which is terrible, don't watch it, but they have a line in there where he said, they go, "You want to direct a horror movie? What's wrong with?" He goes, "No, nobody directs that garbage." And then he says something along the lines of, "But what if somebody really good directed a horror movie?" And so that's kind of what Hitchcock did with Psycho. He directed a really good horror movie, but horror movies were already a thing. So even here, when I call Psycho the grandfather of slasher movies, I'm probably wrong because I don't know enough about the horror genre to say for sure. But in terms of influence, Psycho was unbelievably influential. Like, basically everything Hitchcock made. Oh yeah, MBS says his favorite Hitchcock film is The Birds. Uh, The Birds was a horror movie, right?
Yes.
So maybe that Anthony Hopkins movie wasn't accurate. Nope, no, it wasn't. The Birds came out after Psycho. Came out in 1963. So it was accurate. They made a sequel to The Birds that aired on television and it's terrible.
I know
That's
there's
hilarious.
I know there's a thing called Birdemic that's like, oh.
Yeah, there's a Birdemic, but yeah, and Tippi Hedren was in it. Tippi Hedren was in this television sequel to The Birds, except she played a completely different character, and it got awful reviews. Or as somebody put it, hold on, let me read this thing. It's pretty funny. He also commented on the fact that it was the critic commented on the fact that it was an Alan Smithy film. The pseudonym used when the director wants to disown the final film. Writing, but the poster and cassette box show that Showtime sent along with the review tape clearly state that Rick Rosenthal directed Birds 2, before adding he has good reasons to want his name erased from it. If it were me, I'd sue.
Yeah.
In a 2002 interview, Tippi Hedren said, "It's absolutely horrible and it embarrasses me horribly."
Wow. These unfortunates.
Alright. I want to read much like my favorite horror movie, Cats. Have you ever read the reviews for Cats?
I don't. I don't want to. It's just. It's just no,
Not.
thank you.
It,
What's that, Anthony?
it's so review. The,
Don't worry, he'll catch up with us in a minute.
just the blurbs, not the full reviews. Like, kind of deeply. Never use drugs, but I suppose the feeling is close to what I experienced watching Cats. There's one.
So, this is a truly spicy opinion, but I deeply enjoyed the Arnold. So hold on a second. Megabuster Shepard
Trying to
says
find.
Batman and Robin is my favorite horror movie. It causes so much screaming. I actually enjoyed the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And now I watch my armies die. Because it's Reichland's turn. And the German tide is destroying everything. Oh my goodness. I might have to reset my game.
uh, don't you kind of deserve it, though?
I
Come on,
mean,
I'm trying for.
I'm playing the Egyptians. So like except it's like undead Egyptians. And I just conquered a whole bunch of stuff and I know what my mistakes were. So it's like, yeah, okay. I've reset it and I tried to destroy their armies, But they have so many armies. They have so many armies. Like I have 20 armies coming in to kick my undead teeth in. Like how does this happen? Who does this? They're coming for the Black Pyramid. I've got I've got two, three, four, so many armies.
So, 1 of 5. So, score 1 of 5. We will not see the likes of Cats again, which in a way is a shame. This is one of the worst films I've ever seen. I also hope that everyone gets to see it and that it wins Best Picture at the Oscars in 2020. Can't recommend it
Uh,
enough.
it's the movie 2020 deserves.
Yes, a truly terrible memory that will for a thousand life. A
So
visual event of catastrophic proportions. Having a literal cat claw at my eyes for an hour and 49 minutes would have been less painful. This is the score of F minus minus minus. So they made a new rating.
so what I'm trying to do is uh is cuck my enemies by attacking from their rear and
Amazing.
cutting into their forces. So we'll see how that turns out because nothing else is going very well. All right.
You know what a
Well,
good
hmm?
But hold on, I need to find the best ones and I can't find them.
Okay.
There's uh I hated this movie with every fiber of my being. Visually repulsive and not far behind on a sonic level.
So I'm playing Total War Warhammer because I can't stream Death Stranding because that beast is insane to try and stream because it has so many connections to things. Encircle. It's time to siege. Your move. I don't know. I don't know. All right. Well, I'm pretty done. I've only got like 16 hours under my belt for the last almost since Thursday, Wednesday. No, Thursday to Friday, and then Saturday I only got like one 6 hour session of sleep, and I got another 6 hour session of sleep. So and this is Sunday, so Thursday to Friday. That was a solid 24 hours.
Sleep listening. Today was yeah. For the viewers listening, this was kind of a difficult stream to have. The reason is that the thing is kind of difficult to talk about. We mentioned why earlier, but to sum up, the things that make it good are not really things that we're qualified to go on about, which is it has fantastic cinematography, fantastic pacing, uh, and even then, honestly, it kind of drags a little bit at one point. But it's very good at making suspense. Fantastic special effects, a killer premise. But writing-wise, it is dead simple, and there isn't a whole lot there.
Mm-hmm.
So, in terms of what we could talk about with the thing, what makes it good? All of the stuff I just mentioned. Not much else. It's not very deep. It's not trying to say a lot. I mean, if it's trying to say something about paranoia, it's not really clear what it's trying to say. If it's trying to say paranoia is bad, well, it's failing at that because paranoia is not bad in this. Paranoia is necessary. And I don't think it is trying to say that, so, because that would be dumb, I don't think it really cares. I think it's just trying to tell an exciting monster story, and that is exactly what it does. I highly recommend it. I would not call it one of the greatest movies ever made for that reason. There isn't really a moral core to it. There isn't an anti superversive core to it. I disagree with the people who call it nihilistic. But there also isn't anything that would make me point to it and say, yes, this has something profound to say. The thing has nothing profound to say. The thing is just cool as shit. I highly recommend it. You should watch it. But there isn't a whole lot for us to talk about.
Yeah,
So instead, we talked about Portal.
yeah, and a whole bunch of other things, honestly. Uh,
Yep.
I'm going to reinforce Cetra the Imperishable. I honestly love Cetra the Imperishable. Uh, Basically, they set up like the ultimate kind of. I should double check on all my emperors. um, oh yeah, there's Hakor, cocking the enemy as a good backline should. Except he's surrounded by 3 dwarf armies, and that's not good. Oh, that's not good. But yeah, that's how it is. All right, guys, check your email after this. Absolutely. I have been responding to Artanon Bradford about Dashing Jack, which is an excellent piece of art. I might just have to do a video of things from things I've supported. Anthony, any final words for us?
For next week, I hope. Right now, I don't have the Xbox with me that I normally use to watch anime. Hopefully, I will have that back sometime this week, and I could catch up on Jujutsu Kaisen, which looks really freaking good. And that's it. That's all I got.
Would people be interested in a Warhammer stream? Let me know. People have my email. All right. Definitely, we'll plan one out, Megabuster Shepherd, after October. All right. Thank you, guys. And as always, thank you for listening. Goodbye.